that becomes, what's the fourth state of matter?
A plasma?
Plasma. It becomes plasma. And it goes through that, and it collects from the ionosphere, which is a free field of electrons around the Earth. I mean, it would be undepletable.
Right.
And that's the nature of free electricity. So I give you that long analogy is because when I depend on my own personal power, no matter how great it is, it's like I'm depending on that coal-burning plant, those electric wires. It has a lot of friction in it. It has a lot of limitation. Whereas this other plasma-based ionic technology is you suddenly have an absolutely free. So the ionosphere in this case would be the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, okay.
And my radio beam is my desire to contact through faith and belief. So I fire this faith and belief through this ionosphere. It creates a plasma, which is a fourth state of matter. We're only aware of solid, liquid, and gas, right? That's what we typically know. Well, this is plasma, which is somewhere between liquid and what?
Hi friends. Do you know what is the most common state of matter in the entire universe? Is it a solid, liquid, or gas? You may be surprised to hear that it is none of these. The correct answer is plasma, the fourth state of matter, and that's going to be the topic of this video.
I refer to plasma as analogous or symbolic of the Holy Spirit. And so our experiences of solid, liquid, and gas, this is symbolic.
Plasma makes up more than 99% of visible matter in the universe. It is found in the stars, including our own sun, as well as in the vast regions of space between galaxies.
Yet, all of that happens inside of this plasmic reality, which is not in my common experience. And in this sense, I think that the analogy or the metaphor of the Holy Spirit and plasma has some accuracy. Also, the Course is very clear about the symbolic nature of everything here. You can release yourself through the symbolic quality of anything. You know, in fact, I'd say that the Course wants it to be that when I have conflict, it's a symbol of requiring the other state of matter. So what I'm saying is when we go to this Holy Spirit with faith and belief, there is this ionosphere of this Holy Spirit. And my faith and belief is a coherent beam that can go through that.
And it gets magnified
and it
by
does,
the Lord.
Yeah, and it does get, charged with power. And then I just have to be ready for the effects because it says moving a mountain is no big deal.
Right.
Where are we on 9?
Yeah, paragraph 9. Those who believe in sin must think the Holy Spirit asks for sacrifice, for this is how they think their purpose is accomplished. Brother, the Holy Spirit knows that sacrifice brings nothing. He makes no bargains. And if you seek to limit him, you will hate him because you are afraid. The gift that he has given you is more than anything that stands this side of heaven. The instant for its recognition is at hand. Join your awareness to what has been already joined. The faith you give your brother can accomplish this. For he who loves the world is seeing it. He, that's the Holy Spirit, who loves the world, is seeing it for you, without one spot of sin upon it, and in the innocence that makes the sight of it as beautiful as heaven.
I got to jump in and say, with that ionic reference I just gave, the deal is, in this world, in the physical world, forgiveness, reaching out to the brother, as it's suggesting in this paragraph, is like the copper wires and coal-burning plant. In other words, it's got some fumes, it's got some smoke, it's got some smell, it's got some friction, it's got some problems. When I place my faith and belief in this other way, which ultimately has to do with the sonship, in other words, my brother over there, as I have misinterpreted him. That's a synapse into the Holy Spirit. It's a synapse. When I have this intentionality of meeting the brother, it creates this other level of potency and of change and of power that can change things radically.
Yeah.
Now, you'd say, I need the proof. faith and belief, you've got to want the proof. I've got this friend. I was concerned about him. We did some special intentions. We did some prayers for this friend of mine who he had some family situations, okay? Everything was basically in the shit can. I mean, everything was a mess. Really, really bad. And so I said, okay, just as a happy witness for myself, because it's a friend of mine from long ago, let's see something here. Let's see something. And you kind of hold that. Well, radical changes.
Right.
Radical changes. Everything that they were concerned with a short amount of time.
Yeah, I agree.
It happened, and I don't want to get into
the marriage was on the rocks. The relationship with the kids weren't good.
Yeah, the kids was terrible. The relationship, and all of it changed radically. And yet, since that person, in my view, I got a happy witness.
Right.
But now there's more to complain about, for that person. So it's necessary that we want to see these miracles and call them what they are.
Right.
This is a miracle. That's why I like, as a general rule, to declare in advance what my threshold is for a miracle. And I say, if this happens, it's a miracle. I'm giving it to the Holy Spirit if it comes down, in this certain way. And that's where I'm at with
that way or better.
The bargain. Yeah, right.
It's always better. Sometimes it's a lot more. I'd say a lot of times it's better than what I could think.
Well, what usually happens is I have an idea of the way things can happen, and it usually has to do with coal burning plant and copper, getting over the friction problem.
Right.
And in fact, I get the plasma solution, which is, wow, I don't know how that happened, but everything was eliminated with a stroke.
Yes.
And so, but I have found that since you and I have been doing this, and I've made it a point to look for those things. They are everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
The miracles are everywhere.
Yeah, you get holy instant.
Don't you think?
Yeah, you get holy instant reminders. And when you're stuck, it's usually because I'm stuck. I'm stuck with ideas again about friendships or whatever it is, some things about the world. And I recognize that I'm holding on to those judgments, and then I go, oh. You can tell that you're holding on to them because you don't feel so good. And then you go, oh, then why don't you let them go and talk to the Holy Spirit about it? And usually within 24 hours, I feel 100% better. I don't really know necessarily what has happened. Sometimes I get, reminder, I get some kind of a clue. Could be through the internet, could be funny little things that could pop up. Or somebody says something that changes my mind about that person completely. It doesn't matter. That those to me are those holy instances that says, yeah, you gave up your idea, and now let me show you that your idea was just made up based on your own belief, and you're going to always get what you put your belief and faith in. That's what you'll get back.
Well, and I've also developed a thing where maybe like non-local miracles, I've gotten to where I have an appreciation for that, where because of who I am, what I am, my conditioning, or my temperament, or whatever it is, I'm not disposed to, let's say, receiving a miracle directly in a certain way, and so I look for it outside of me. In other words, it's not really happening in my purview. As an example, that thing I was talking about, the 32-year-old thing, in the phone conversation, the person gave me many miracles that they would never. They're not doing this. They don't. They don't talk that way. But they gave me a list of the ways that they were reinforced, that they were appreciated, that they went through this.
Yes.
And that I would call a non-local miracle, but where it didn't happen to me directly.
Right.
But in this phone conversation, I can see it happening out there.
Yeah.
And that helps to restore me in a sense. Do you think that's cheating?
No. I don't at all. No, because I felt it. Because, you had it on speakerphone, and I felt the change as it was going on, as you were having the conversation. So, I mean, I think that, I felt there was a release. And that's, to me, how if there's a release that happens there.
What paragraph?
We're on paragraph, let's see. I just read 9. Okay, so you're on 10.
Your faith in sacrifice has given it great power in your sight, except you do not realize you cannot see because of it. For sacrifice must be exacted of a body and by another body. The mind could neither ask it nor receive it of itself, and no more could the body. The intention is in the mind, which tries to use the body to carry out the means for sin in which the mind believes. Thus is the joining of mind and body an inescapable belief of those who value sin, and so is sacrifice invariably a means for limitation, and thus for hate. This idea about sacrifice is important to understand. What do you think about the whole sacrifice deal?
Well, first of all, I realized that we kind of skipped over it from the prior paragraph, but the Holy Spirit does not require any sacrifices. And if we're experiencing sacrifices, it's because we've misinterpreted what is coming out of this desire to have the holy relationship. There is no sacrifice with the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is a restoration tool. It is the tool that brings me and the other back into a sense of wholeness, where there is not an other, but instead a completeness. So your faith in sacrifice has given it great power in your sight, except you do not realize you cannot see because of it. So long as I believe in sacrifice, I will not have vision. It's not going to be there.
Give an example of a belief in sacrifice. I can definitely come up with some. You go ahead.
Well, just in a relationship, let's just say with you or anything else. If I believe that I have to give up a way of being or something else in order to stay with you, then that means that I have put all my emphasis on sin. I am now about your body is what you do, and on my body is what I do. And so therefore, there's no compromise there. In other words, I will feel put upon that you do not like me the way I am in some way, and that you're going to put the screws to me and say, this has to change, So, and I don't experience that, by the way. But at any rate, so then I feel like I'm put upon to sacrifice something about my way of being, my self-expression, or whatever it is. It could be that, maybe I'm a sloppy housekeeper and, I'm throwing things around and you like it clean, or it's vice versa, whatever it is. Right. Those little things like that we say are sacrifice. Well, if my emphasis is on that means I'm believing in sin, which is the belief in the separation. And the mind could neither ask it nor receive it of itself, because mind in this instant is not the brain that's thinking. And no more could the body, because the body's neutral. The intention is in the mind. We're talking about mind, holistic mind, which tries to use the body to carry out the means for sin. Okay, in this case, it's the mind that wants to try. So which mind am I associating with? If I'm the mind of the body, now it's going to use it to carry out the means for sin in which the mind believes. So whatever I put my faith and belief in is where and what I'm going to see. And I will experience sin if I put it in the body-centric mind.
And sacrifice is an inevitable sort of science or physics. In other words, I have to give up this, or you have to give up that, mm-hmm. in order to accomplish a certain thing. In other words, and that's all based on a priori fixed quantities.
Right.
You're a fixed quantity, mm-hmm. not spirit. Fixed
right.
quantity. I'm a fixed quantity, whether it's psychological, emotional, or anything else. And this is the problem sometimes with being, let's say, just to give a pedestrian viewpoint, I'm tired.
Right.
Okay, let's say I'm tired, mm-hmm. and a certain function comes up, a certain mm-hmm. thing shows up on my horizon, and I make the decision, I'm too tired. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go. Mm-hmm. I'm too tired. Is that really what it is? Is that because you're going to get
right? You're going to sometimes you get tired just because you don't want to go.
Well, so you're lying to yourself.
Yeah,
there's a possibility by saying I'm just too tired.
Yeah.
You're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
And by lying to yourself, there's a lack of integrity. There's faithlessness. You're
It's
not
an excuse.
You're not relying on the Spirit. Now, does it mean that no matter how tired you are, you go do that thing that you're too tired to do? This is a fine line, and that one has to offer this into the fire of the Holy Spirit's judgment in these things. Because let's say I'm really, really tired, and I go, you know what? I don't want to drag myself over there. I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with those people. I don't want to deal with this stuff. Phil, there might be miracles over there. There could be miracles. No, I don't. No, Sam, I am. I do not want miracles with
I have had moments where or a friend drags me through something and I just really don't want to go. And then I end up having a really, I would say, an interesting time, something unexpected or whatever. And it was actually unexpectedly good. And you're revived by the interactions that happen there and everything else.
But generally speaking, you see what I'm saying? That's a very, very simple and, for me anyway, often, it's the most accessible, the most clear. I have so many calories available, I don't want to give it to them.
Right.
I do not want to give it to them.
Okay, you're right.
So what are we talking about with this? Do I want to be deprived of that power to declare that I've got, like I'm the Starship Enterprise and I've only got so many photon units in this game board. I've got 120 photon units and that person is going to want 100 of them and I want more than 20 when it's all over with. Is that, do I want to give up that power? What does it look like to give up that power and still make a decision that isn't a sacrifice? Because the problem is I think it's going to be a sacrifice to show up.
Right.
Do I really want to go or not? What's the issue? Help me with this, because it happens consistently. And I think that if we can understand a little bit of these kinds of things.
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I can only say that for myself, I use applied kinesiology to check in. And I usually call on the Holy Spirit.
So you do muscle testing, right?
I do muscle testing, just off of your fingers or whatever. Anyone use these? You do this, you put one finger this way and you go this one. If it stays together, it's a yes, and if it falls apart, it's a no. Obviously, I mean, you can make it happen whichever way you want. But I try to get out of the way, and sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I got a yes. But I use it. I use it for a lot of things.
I used to use, and still do sometimes. I used to use tarot readings a lot, or I Ching.
Yeah.
I'd throw an oracle because I don't trust myself.
Because I recognize that I have all kinds of preconceived ideas about. Particularly when there's going to be group settings and everything else. And as you said, all of a sudden you say, oh, I'm going to be in a group setting. And if you're an introvert, you're like, I don't know if I want to do this. It's like, you get pulled out, and sometimes you do get tired, particularly if you have too many of those, like during the holidays, too many of those events happening over and over again. I know this is all body stuff, by the way, it's all just reasoning within the concept of the illusion. But nonetheless, I'm going to go with it. So, I would find that I'm being pulled away, and that, I can have a good time because I like people and stuff like that. But then if I have too many of those, I'll be like, I got to have I got to have my place where I say no. I mean, and that's just ways of the world. But for the Holy Spirit, if you're asking for, I don't know if it applies to all of these things, but if you're asking in particular to have a healed and holy relationship with particular beings and stuff like that, then, well, it's best if you put yourself with those beings, so that if you want to see it, instead of avoiding them, you put yourself with them. The very thing that you think, oh, not this again. But then you find out whether or not those situations are being changed, or am I still holding on to the same? It's not that they're being changed, but I have a different idea. Either that person doesn't need to change at all, which is usually what happens, and you see something, I don't know, charming about them that you didn't notice before, or they have a certain way, or everything else, and you go, I've been making it up. The kinds of things I've been thinking about this person aren't really real. Or, it's something else. You feel like, you're being led in a different direction. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the thing of it is that every time you have a relationship where there is some tension. That's the place where you want to ask for the Holy Spirit to be working in
Right.
it.
Well, sacrifice is sacrifice. And whether I'm
And that-
tired or not,
Yeah.
obviously if I got, 3-4 hours of sleep and I'm dog tired and I just don't want to drag myself over there, I would say in the light of the Course in Miracles, it's important to just avoid using physical parameters, excuses. In other words, sacrifice. To not use sacrifice as what we're talking about.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
talking
I mean, that's an ego saying, I'm sacrificing my time and effort to go to this thing. That is the ego speaking, and we need to know who's talking, to us. It's not the Holy Spirit that's saying that. And I don't know what the Holy Spirit says. But only each individual, how they get their prompts and how that it only helps to keep using the Holy Spirit every time you have an upset. Every time you feel a lack of peace. It's
a lack of power,
a
lack of
power.
strength, a lack of energy,
Whatever it is,
a lack of attention.
That is when you call on the Holy Spirit.
Any lack, because
and if
any
you've got
lack,
any kind of moment where you can actually spread it out so that, and you can say, right now, let me feel, let me experience this differently. I think that you can feel what you're supposed to be up to.
lack equals sin.
Yeah.
If you're making decisions based on lack, that would be money, that would be your body, it would be power, energy, it could be location, it could be anything. It could be distance, any physical parameter,
Right.
metric, any physical metric. If I'm making my decision, let's say not to heal the world because I don't know what to do with 7.5 billion people, or if it's to not do this other thing because I don't have a gazillion dollars to go do this thing. Whatever it is, it's not that you just bull ahead and charge through with your will. But I think it's important in doing the spiritual practice. I'm belaboring it because I think it's a critical and essential piece of this faith and belief aspect of, am I putting my faith and my belief in the amount of money, the amount of energy, the amount of strength, the amount of distance, the amount of proximity or importance I have, or am I putting faith and belief in this other way with the Holy Spirit? I think it's important to practice putting it there in every situation, so as infrequently as possible I'm dragging the physical metrics into it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's
No.
like I can't handle being around people.
Yeah.
I've had enough people time.
Yeah, right.
I don't have it in me.
Right.
I can't do it. I'm too far away. They want me to do it, but it's just not possible. I've got to get past, anytime they say, well, they want me to do it, I don't have a moving van. I don't have this. I'm not saying that you just say, well, no, I got a Toyota Tercel. We can load that thing up with your whole household. I'm not saying that the impossible, physically impossible things happen. Like I'm functioning on 15 minutes of sleep and I'm asked to to do a dance-a-thon for the next 4 days. I'm saying it's important to get rid of physical parameters as an inner conversation for either doing or not doing things.
Right. I agree.
It's part of this spiritual practice.
Right.
And I don't know where it's going to take me.
Right.
If it takes me to the party I don't want to go to, if it takes me into committing to things I don't want to commit to, maybe we just then need to learn some other aspect of our decision making.
Yes.
Where we go do those things. But for the most part, I have found that whenever I have used a lack of some sort of energetic parameter, that would be money, energy, time, etc. I realize I've been insincere, I've been dishonest, and it wasn't the case, it wasn't the fact, and all I did was make myself a little bit less by lying to myself and lying to other people.
Right.
It doesn't mean you don't do it. It doesn't mean you have to do it.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Very much so. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. Paragraph 11. Think you the Holy Spirit is concerned with this? Okay, the last sentence was, and so is sacrifice invariably a means for limitation and thus for hate. Okay, so that's where we left off. Think you the Holy Spirit is concerned with this? He gives not what it is. He gives not what it is his purpose to lead you from. You think he would deprive you for your good. But good and deprivation are opposites and cannot meaningfully join in any way. It is like saying that the moon and the sun are one because they come with night and day, and so they must be joined. Yet sight of one is but the sign the other has disappeared from sight. Nor is it possible that what gives light be one with what depends on darkness to be seen. Neither demands the sacrifice of the other, yet on the absence of the other does each depend.
Let's spend just a little bit of time with this analogy. It's a long analogy, the sun and the moon. The obvious situation is, let's just keep it simple and not get into astrophysics. The moon typically needs a night sky. In other words, it's black, it's dark, it's nighttime. That would be a symbol of a lack of conscious awareness or something like that. Let's say it's darkness, it's my darkness. And the moon is a light for that world. And then the sun, when it shines, the moon goes away.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean the moon's not there.
Right.
It's just that the moon goes away. And, you can see a sliver or whatnot. But, let's just keep it this way.
Right.
So what do you think it's saying here? Why is it going to such extent about day, night, sun, moon?
Well, it says, but good and deprivation are opposites and cannot meaningfully join in any way. So basically, we're choosing always between the illusion, which would be the darkness, and holiness or the oneness with God as the light. So it's saying neither demands a sacrifice of the other, yet in the absence of the other does each depend. So in order for me to participate in the illusion in the manner in which, quote, I want to, I am not going to be depending on the Holy Spirit because I want it my way. I want to see it my way. I want to trust in my own judgments. I want to make my decisions without the Holy Spirit, whatever those are. And so with that, my world will remain within a state of darkness, a state of constant fluctuations, inconsistencies will be all of its signatures. I will have, it won't be constant. It will be inconsistent. It will have its perturbations of ups and downs and everything else. Whereas if I choose the other and I depend on the Holy Spirit, you'll know because it will have a constancy. It will feel more smooth. It will be less with perturbations and things like that. So long as my ego is invested in this world, even though I've chosen the Holy Spirit, because I'm invested in my perception of self and what I think you are or anyone else, then I'm going to experience the upsets. But it just means that, yes, I've said I really want the Holy Spirit. I really, really do. But I really want my own way. In other words, I'm still fighting with myself, And you need to be, everyone needs to be aware of that. I need to be aware of that. One does not exist with the other. They just do not exist in the same thing. If I am in a state of true joy, of true peace, then depression is not a part of, it's not there. It's just, it's gone. Now, if I've got that dome of depression, and I'm in my darkened little cave or my under the bushel basket type of scene, I don't know where the light is. Mm-hmm. I can't see the light because I've chosen that thought system. So they are mutually exclusive.
Well, in the moon, I don't know how this applies, but obviously the moon is reflected light. It doesn't have light of its own.
Right. And which is really our body-centric self is a sense of, I do have light. I do have agency. I do.
And that I do is the equivalent of the moonlight.
Yes,
but it's a reflected light. It's not the source itself.
It's not the source.
The source is the self. The source of any light is the sun as self. And,
yes.
and the rest is reflected light.
Right.
Now, the thing is, though, I was thinking about while you're talking, because I want to jump into the polarity or the opposite, the duality game of the two. In Tarot, the moon card is fear. Right. And it's usually associated with twilight and things not seen very clearly.
Right.
And it is the scariest card in the deck, the moon card. And it's basically saying there's things you're going to have to go through that will frighten you, and there's nothing you can really do about that. There's that kind of fatalism with it. That's the moon card. And then the sun card is a child riding a pony or a twins playing in the sun. And so it is associated with joy, celebration, childhood, openness. It's the opposite in a lot of ways.
Right.
And so with those things, the moon is, the moon goes away in the presence of those things. Now, they also happen in the world we live in a cyclic manner.
Right.
They come and they go. They are in flux with one another. So the Course, being as sublime as I think that it is, it could also be answering what I was probing in you, especially in the last paragraph, which is when you want to go to the party and when you feel tired, you feel this, is to appreciate that these things also come up as questions in a kind of a flux. And where they're in a cyclic relationship with each other. Sometimes I want to be with a whole bunch of people, no matter how tired I am. Sometimes, and I'm really, really tired, and I don't want to do it, let's say I'm not tired, and I still don't want to do it. It's like, so all of these things in the physical realm are in flux. And once again, if I identify anything that's in flux in the physical realm, meaning I want to do it, I don't want to do it, I think I can do it, I don't think I can do it.
Yes, the world of adjustments.
The world of adjustments.
Right.
Is to establish that other dialogue with this other thing. Yes. And that dialogue, once I've decided to do the dialogue, maybe it means I go do the thing that I didn't want to do even though I had 3 hours of sleep, and I'm dealing with a bunch of tedium, and I don't want to be there. It's part of the test. And while I'm there in it, I'm in dialogue, and I'm saying, what do you say to this? What are we doing here? And if I decide to sleep in, and I don't want to go, then I sleep in mindfully, and I'm in dialogue again, saying, what are we doing here? Is this the way it should be? Is this good? And try to be in dialogue.
I agree.
Okay. Is that good?
Yeah. Paragraph 12.
The body was made to be a sacrifice to sin, and in the darkness so it still is seen. Yet in the light of vision it is looked upon quite differently. You can have faith in it to serve the Holy Spirit's goal and give it power to serve as means to help the blind to see. But in their seeing, they look past it, as do you. The faith and the belief you gave it belongs beyond. You gave perception and belief and faith from mind to body. Let them now be given back to what produced them and can use them still to save itself from what it made. So again and again, just off the top, without trying to be too specific, you be specific, you say something. But what I think is gorgeous, beautiful about these things, it's like no matter what we throw at the Holy Spirit, if we're in this dialogue with this alternate reality of which it's difficult to believe it's there sometimes it's easier than others, whatever, whatever elements of my physical limitation, sin, are there, or my difficulties or differences, Holy Spirit can work with any of it. It's totally alchemical. Right. The whole physical complex, the whole neurosis complex, the whole weakness, the whole aging, all the things, the rules, the laws. I'm under no laws but God's.
Right, I'm under
all
no laws but
those
God's.
laws
That's right.
can be reinterpreted.
That's right. And so again, this is moving again beyond the body. The body was made to be a sacrifice to sin, and in darkness, so it still is seen. So again, and yet in the light, the vision is looked upon quite differently. So you can have faith in it to serve the Holy Spirit's goal, because the body is neutral. So if I decide that I want it to be serving the Holy Spirit's goal, which is salvation of the world and myself, and give it power to serve as means to help the blind to see, yeah, we all need to have the veil lifted. But in their seeing, they look past it, as do you. So in their seeing, they look past it. I assumed that was the body. But in their seeing, the ones that are blind, in their seeing, they look past the body, as do you. The faith and belief you gave the body belongs beyond. You gave perception and belief and faith from mind to body. Let them now be given back to what produced them, and can use them still to save itself from what it made.
Yeah, the mind and the body would be analogous to the moon. In other words, both, the mind and body are both reflected light. Mm-hmm. They're both reflected light. Neither one source is somewhere.
Right.
And it's fair to look at my own life as sort of a lunar meditation. You know, it's crazy. I'm in the dark. I'm seeing the stars. I'm afraid. I hear things move off on the side. They give me the creeps. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at the moon and just reflecting on the moon itself and going, the moon's light, you know, there's a world of sunshine and daylight that's producing this thing that I'm seeing.
Right.
You know, to recognize that in a weird way, I'm in the daylight. Mm-hmm. And
in a weird way, by looking at the moon and staring at it, let's say, or staring into the darkness, but you see something there. If you allow yourself to sense that the source is coming from someplace else than where I think I see the reflections of it, which would be my perceptual world, then I can feel that I'm in a greater soup. You know, I could feel the soup of the sonship and recognize all of it is here to teach me something about myself and my brother, so that I can recognize that it never was fractaled. It's actually still whole. You know, that there's an inner revelation that I think comes.
Well, you know, I don't want to leave this out. The Gayatri Mantra, which I've spent a lot of time thinking about, sort of analyzing, is kind of the most common or Hindu mantra. Mm-hmm. And there's a line in it, tat savitur varenyam, you know, and tat means that, it just means the other. Savitur means the effulgence behind the sun. Sometimes it's interpreted as the sun, but it's not. Mm-hmm. It's effulgence itself. In other words, the sun has light. The sun gives light, and yet the sun itself, if you think about it, is a physical object. It is not, rightly speaking, the source of light. Even the sun.
Yeah, right.
Even the sun is not the source of light, and yet light exists. And so tat savitur varenyam. Varenyam means is worthy of worship. So that the only thing in this first line of the Gayatri Mantra, the only thing that's worthy of worship is that effulgence behind all appearances. And that would include you as an appearance. Okay, you're a brightness. You have a brightness. There's something through you. And the same with the sun, the same with all of reality. Anyway, it's a really nice thing to realize light, and the Course says it over and over again, which is why I bring that up. That light is not the light you see with your eyes. It's not a visible light. It's the source of light. Light has a source, a radiance, you know, that comes, and it's the inner radiance that's the inner radiance in the most lethargic person you can look at. They still exude a radiance because they're alive.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Is that it? Is that it?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm going to call it good. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.